Welcome back to I'm Still Here. I'm Larry.
And I'm Heather. In 1998, at the age of 26, I was diagnosed with stage 4 breast cancer. It changed everything for us, but I'm still here.
You are.
Yes.
And we are continuing our 5 to Thrive series, which we are on number 4. What is the 5 to Thrive series?
5 to Thrive is a way to take you through kind of the aspects that we have found to be kind of critical in each part of your process. So the first process is kind of, we're talking about, which we're in right now, is talking about from diagnosis to kind of establishing what's happening next.
Starting a treatment.
Yep. So this is the crazy time. But we're talking about the mental, the physical, the nutrition, medical, and support. So today we are talking about medical specifically, which is such a crazy thing. And then once we get done with the diagnosis to treatment portion, we're going to go on to the treatment portion. So of kind of that part of your life where you're juggling those things and how all of these same 5 to Thrive concepts apply during that time. And then we'll talk about it post-treatment, because that's a whole new ball game.
Yeah.
And again, by post-treatment, it just, for me, that means like kind of post-surgery, radiation, chemo, things like that. Yeah. Or kind of incorporating that maintenance treatment, because we recognize that as metastatic, we're always in some sort of treatment. Yeah. I got mine today. Woo!
You did. So, we're talking about medical today, but one of the things we do understand, and doing all of these, it's a little bit difficult because every situation is different. And when we're talking about diagnosis to treatment, we understand that can be 2 days, that can be a week, that can be 3 weeks, that can be a month. That's different for everybody, and everybody's different situation, and where they are in life, and what their goals are with this, what travel, what situations are available to you and what are not. There's just so many variables out there. There's no way we can hit on all of those, but I guess mostly it's taking Heather's experience while going through it, but also being in it for 25 years now of going through that. So, medical, what are we thinking?
Well, initially my first thought is this is literally just survival, right? Yeah. Like, this is just trying to think, encompass like what is happening here, but also like trying to stay calm and keep some things moving, and it is also kind of an opportunity to think about how, like, to set the tone in terms of how you want to interact with the medical professionals that you're going to encounter, but also just what your expectations are, I guess, from all of that. So
I feel like this is, compared to what we've talked about with nutrition and fitness and mental, I feel like this is probably the least in your hands to some extent. I get that you get to make decisions and all that, but we don't. We can Google some nutrition information or some fitness information. You can also Google medical stuff, but you didn't go to med school. You didn't spend all of those years deciding what's best for your DNA.
For sure.
What I mean? So,
no, I think it's more about finding the people that you feel comfortable with.
Exactly.
Finding the way that you feel most comfortable going through this testing.
Trust.
Procedures, like trusting exactly how you want to access your medical information. All of that is kind of in here way more than
So can you tell us a little bit, when you were first diagnosed, and not the whole story, but just for the people who haven't heard before, kind of the bad to good that you experienced?
So I mean, it started initially with my primary care doctor, who had helped deliver my daughter Sydney. So it started there, and that was all fine. Like, she knew there was a problem. She sent me out to get some tests done. She didn't leave me in a lurch. That was all fine. what became a problem was that I ended up at an appointment with an oncologist. About a week later, I'd already met with a surgeon who had kind of quoted all the statistics to me. And I mean, in retrospect, I wish I could have stopped him because I couldn't get those stats out of my head, thinking about him saying, yeah, I'm not, whatever, that they, it wasn't great to be stage 4, of course. But then, so this oncologist, everything about the whole encounter was just really terrible. His bedside manner was terrible. He was angry at me and my doctor because he was the one who was actually telling me that I did have stage 4 breast cancer. He told me to get my affairs in order and that we could try some chemo when he got back from skiing, but he wasn't making any promises.
So, and we don't know, maybe this guy's great and just had the worst day of his life, and
Sure.
we've all had terrible days, and that just because you're an oncologist, you're not immune to that. But when we talk about the trust and talk about, do you feel comfortable with, and do you feel like you're a player in this?
Mm-hmm.
Clearly, that was not the case, and that was realized right away.
Right away. I mean, I did try to interact with him a little bit. He did say, oh, they are doing some research at some hospital, some places. But basically, it was like, I don't even know if you want to try chemo. Yeah. Like, you don't. So
here's the next part. And this was my experience in going through this, and it was yours too until a couple of days later. We thought that was the norm to some extent.
Yeah.
When you're in it and you have no other experience,
yeah.
It's kind of like, if somebody grows up and lives in poverty their whole life and that's all they ever see, that is their norm.
Mm-hmm.
It's not poverty to them. This was similar to us, and yes, it sucked, and he was giving us information, but we didn't know that was almost malpractice until a couple of days later.
Yeah, it just was so, I mean, that was kind of the, oh my gosh, I guess I got the worst of this cancer. Like,
exactly.
Oh, I have no options. Oh,
right.
I'm all of a sudden this person who is supposed to just go home and enjoy the time I have left. Like, it was so...
And we didn't know any better.
We didn't know any better because that was, my experience with cancer, our experience with cancer was very, very limited, mm-hmm. right? But also it feels, I've talked about this a little bit, how unbelievable it feels because I felt fine. Like, so to be healthy, to have this happen to you, and then to have,
So then what happened?
Well, I will just say
Forget him.
Well, just quickly, he did, loaded me up with a whole bunch of pamphlets, his nurse did, and said, do you want to make an appointment for chemo? And I was like, I'm out of here.
All right, so let's just say, this guy was a douche. And he, let's just be honest, he was not good at his job. I don't care if he was having a bad day. Okay? Then we went home. So we're not talking about mm-hmm. douche dude. We're on to the good news.
And so then, the next day, I got a phone call from a different oncologist who... I was very fortunate that my brother had been to med school at the University of Michigan, was able to kind of drop everything, make a lot of phone calls, and find her. But the tone changed immediately when she called me. I remember thinking, like, the first, I don't know how many minutes, but at least the first 10 questions had nothing to do with cancer. And I thought, what? Who is this person who's asking me about my life and about kind of my family, what I did, kind of just trying to, I don't know, get to know me, figure out, where I was at with things. But then she said just everything right. She said that cancer didn't scare her, that she saw how it worked. She said that... she believed, that we could get started. This was Friday, that we could get started on Monday. She gave me her phone number for the weekend. And again, this is 1998, so things were not as, couldn't just...
She still does it today, by the way.
Yeah, she does. We talked about that. Everything was different with her. It was like, okay, if you are, want to do something about this cancer, I'm going to help you. Like, we're going to kill cancer together.
Yeah.
You know, and also here's something to do for the weekend. Go get some green tea and eat some fruits and vegetables, and we'll start killing cancer on Monday. Like,
and that quote was 20, how many years ago?
It'll be 25 in December.
So when that happened, that was 25 years ago. And when we go back to the mental side of things, that is stuck with Heather every day since then.
Yeah, and
that
honestly,
has been with you.
On days that I wobble, or that, you know, where I think that used to happen more than it does now, but I still go back to that.
Yeah.
This is where I can root myself. I can root myself in what am I eating? What am I thinking about? You know, like I've just been able to expand on that. Mm-hmm. But get some green tea, eat some fruits and vegetables, right. You know. And
so for us, it was not us really doing, but it was a second opinion for us.
Yeah.
It wasn't us seeking out a second opinion. Your brother helped with that.
Right, but
that
we
process,
also, we actually pursued that beyond that.
We did.
We love Dr. Mariver. We love her and definitely felt very confident in what she was doing. But we did end up adding another team member, you know, which it didn't come immediately. It came early on, but probably within the first month or so, I would guess. Mm-hmm. And that was just, I've already started this. How do you, you know, and they were like, yes, that's exactly what we do. They were also it's Block Center for Integrative Health. So they were also offering a lot of other pieces that I was really interested in.
Where the shortfall was at Michigan, it certainly wasn't the science. It certainly wasn't the chemotherapy, what they were administering to you. It wasn't the process of deciding which. It was the other parts of your health, the nutrition, and that where Block excels at. So we were able to do both, not just one.
Yeah. And sometimes, you know, I found it really helpful throughout my initial first year or so to just kind of say to them, like, this is what's coming up next. And them helping me plan for it nutritionally and supplement-wise, but also saying, yeah, that's the right thing. Yeah. And, you know, the more you can hear that, the better you feel about those things.
It goes back to the mental, which is the most important.
Yeah.
So, you know, there's might be some people listening right now going, well, my effing brother didn't go to med school, didn't go to the University of Michigan, or didn't go to this cancer, you know the game, I forgot what it's called.
6 degrees of separation.
6 degrees of separation. Everybody has that to get to a great doctor, too.
I agree.
You really do. And it may not be somebody in your immediate circle, but if you kind of put out the red alert, hey, listen, I want a good second opinion. I know what would make me happy in an oncologist. I want that. This is our only chance at this. I want that. Put it out there. Let other people say that same thing for you. And all of a sudden, you can get connected to the right person for you. You don't have to know them personally. We didn't know Dr. Mariver was even on this earth.
Yeah.
And it was just, by asking those questions and getting people going, hey, yes, we want to help Heather. And we got plugged into that. And you know what? There's probably 50 other, or maybe more than that, oncologists out there that would have been awesome for her situation, but we feel like Dr. Mariver was the perfect doctor, and we got lucky. There's probably more than that.
Yeah,
but
I agree.
Yeah. So get a second opinion is our opinion. And if you're not happy with that, get a third
opinion. Don't stop.
And it's not always, hey, do you agree with this diagnosis and treatment? It doesn't have to be just that. It can just be, I believe in you, that you're believing in me.
Or I don't feel
back
heard,
to the mental.
or I don't feel like this person even wants to know who I am, or any
all of
that.
It matters.
It matters so much. I felt so seen.
Yeah.
With Dr. Mariver, and that was so important to me. And then the other thing I will say that was I felt like when I was diagnosed, I was in Grand Rapids area, which is a big city, like in Michigan, but I felt like such an anomaly there. Everybody was so shocked at my diagnosis. And when I got to U of M, it felt so good for them to go, oh yeah, come on in. We see everything. We've seen it all. Like, you are not as rare as you think you are, or even if you are.
And if you didn't believe that, you just looked to the left and looked to the right, and you saw the other 100 people there, and you went, Oh, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
I am not. No one's looking at me.
Right. Well,
You
and
know?
just to feel that level of confidence
Yeah.
was such a huge thing, right? And yeah, I mean, that made such a huge difference to me. So,
The next kind of thing here is, and this isn't always possible for everybody, with that, but you can get online now, or just by reading Facebook or being in one of those metastatic groups,
Yeah.
or that there's a lot of posts from what I've seen, and I've seen very little, about like, this is literally what my treatment is, and this is why, and people are pretty darn educated about
yeah.
their cancer and their treatment and why the whys behind it and all of this. But just because somebody else is doing a treatment doesn't mean it's perfect for you.
Right. Well, then that's where I think, I mean, just on a general sense, right? We kind of get messed up by saying cancer.
Yes.
Because cancer is a million different
fast-growing,
cells.
abnormal cell that's dividing.
Right. Yeah. So, if there were a cookie cutter for all of us, we wouldn't be on this podcast, right? We wouldn't be talking about this because we would know the formula that worked to just cure cancer.
But people want to go, what worked for you?
Sure.
I want to do that.
Yep.
It worked. You're still here 25 years later.
Yeah.
I want that. And that's just not how it works in cancer.
No.
And what they know now compared to 25 years ago in being very specific with treatment with the drugs and the targeted therapy is not, it's a million years ahead. We did a 1,000-year jump in 25 years. So you wouldn't have wanted what Heather went through necessarily, although a lot of those drugs are still being used. But that part is a non-factor in this. I want to emulate what you did. I think looking at the mental, the physical, the nutrition, and we'll get into the support, I think there's a lot of things to emulate there. But specific drugs in the medical part of this, I think.
Yeah, it's really, the research has shown like that the stem cell transplants did not have the outcomes that was,
it killed more people than it saved.
Exactly.
And that's just the truth. And it didn't kill her, but you know what? She was close.
Yeah.
And really close. And it's scary to think back at how just one little thing would have taken you over the edge and you wouldn't have been with us anymore.
Yeah.
And a lot of people did go over that edge. So it's not worth it. I mean, that's a fact. It's just, it's not.
Well, in some of the medicines and the drugs, like you said, the targeted stuff, I sometimes think about, man, if I could have just started on a drug and not had to do like all of the things that I started with and, wow. So I think we always think the grass is greener. That's just kind of in our nature.
Sure.
Right. But I think you need a level of confidence with who you're working with. And you need to know that they are always looking to what's next. That was another thing that Dr. Mariver, Herceptin was actually brand new when I started. And I remember her saying, we'll keep that in our back pocket. And that just was so reassuring to me also. So you need the person that is communicating to you that they are paying attention, that they know what's coming next and that you're going to work together.
And there's nothing wrong with going into your oncologist saying, hey, I read about this new drug and it's similar, or I have some of the same traits as the people that are on this. What do you think about it?
Yeah.
They're going to know.
Yeah.
That is what they do. And they're either going to say, hey, we can use that one down the road. Or, no, it doesn't work for this reason. They know. It's not a dartboard anymore.
Right. We're going to talk about that a little bit more in support, but it doesn't necessarily have to be you doing that research because
not at all.
That can be a little tough.
So why don't you speak to does treatment fit your wants versus the family?
Well, so again, I think especially those of us that are diagnosed so young, I feel like we don't even know who we are yet. I look at, I mean, I was 26. I did have a daughter, but like my daughter is almost 26, and I would certainly be weighing in on what was happening if she were diagnosed at this point, right?
No doubt.
But ultimately, we all, as the person who has cancer, the decisions are ours as to what we want to pursue, and I mean that from I feel comfortable with this, or I don't, or I want to try more, whatever. I think it's important that we don't let other people decide if a treatment is the right thing for us, if that makes sense.
Makes a lot of sense to me. And I from being a parent now and just imagining, Sydney being diagnosed at this age, I would want a lot of say in things, and that is ridiculous.
I know. And so
it's ridiculous.
I think about it like as another parenting, we tried to have a say in what our son was going to do right after high school.
Stupid.
It didn't work.
Yeah.
It doesn't work that way.
No.
So, so if things are feeling like this is way overwhelming, or just I need to think about this or whatever, it is so important to be on board with what is happening from a treatment standpoint, again, mentally. So I just feel like it's okay to think about that. It's okay to, again, listen to that voice we've talked about. It's okay to say, I'm not sure about this,
I do think when we go back to your comfort level of your oncologist or your team, if you're comfortable with that, with them, I think you're going to see that they have your best interest at heart.
Yeah.
And they're not going to take it too far, not going to take it they want you to be around also.
Yeah.
And they're going to do everything they can. And when that trust is there, you're like, let's go. And, yeah.
I mean, and that's the thing too, like the trust component with your oncologist is so important. Yeah. I've seen oncologists like pull a book out to read, like, what a drug is. I don't ever want to see my oncologist. I'm sure they have to do all that stuff.
Absolutely, yeah.
I don't ever want to see it. I want them to know what they are talking about specifically to me. And if they're more general and they're treating a million different kinds of cancer, then I understand why they need that. But that's not what I wanted to feel like. Oh, you understand my cancer to the best of your ability.
And it wasn't, when I go back to team, it wasn't just your oncologist. No. It was the nurses. It was everybody. They were the most impressive people. And again, we were very young.
Yeah.
But I was blown away by the whatever that's called, the competency of the people who treated you, and that's whether it was true or not,
and confidence.
Whether it's true or not, we had that, or specifically you had that confidence, and that went to your mental side of things. Therefore, everything was positive and working. So when people think, well, what the hell did you do? How are you still here? That's a big part of it, guys. The belief in whatever you're going to do to me and do with me, it is for the best because I know you have my best interest at heart, and I'm all in.
Yeah, absolutely. I decided to be all in on things. Yeah. I've never talked about chemo as poison. I've never done any of that kind of stuff. I'm like, no, I am doing the right thing for me.
Yeah.
Right? So, always with that. But there's other things I just wanted to, as we look at this time, again, so scary. World is spinning. You're in a different test every other day, or you're at home, waiting for a result.
Waiting for a phone call back or a Jiminy Christmas. Oh,
so hard.
Terrible.
I would say, it's okay to advocate for yourself. I should have done a little bit more of this at the beginning. I did hold some good boundaries in terms of saying I don't want to know where...
You didn't know.
No, I get it. Yourself. Right, but I'm just saying, even things that, like, if you absolutely, what time of day is best for you? You can ask. Instead, I feel like there's so many times that they're like, oh, you're going to do x-rays on Tuesdays and a bone scan on Wednesday and a this on Thursday, and you're kind of looking, like we're kind of looking at each other. Our closest place was an hour and a half away. U of M is 2 hours and 15 minutes away from us, and we're kind of looking at each other. And then if you don't say, could they be together, and then they all go, oh yeah, So like ask those questions or have somebody ask them for you. That's fine too. But just like some of it is really, it's kind of, or something like if you're really having to wait, ask to be put on a cancellation list. Tell them, be nice to these people. The nicer you are, the nicer they will be to you. People scheduling especially. Like, let them know, what your difficulties are. If you have young children and if you can do things during the school day, that kind of stuff, like any of that, the more you ask about something, you might be surprised how easy it is for them to accommodate it. So
we aren't even to treatment yet. And when we get to the treatment phase of the medical, we'll be talking about the major treatments that people are doing with this. But this is just, we're still testing and still finding things out and still making plans and learning people and getting second opinions and all of this. All of that is crazy and stressful, and that's where I think the other 4 5 of the 5 to Thrive are so important.
Yeah.
Because you can make a difference in those, whereas the medical part of this is the least that you
have to just get through
it. And it's the one that kicks your ass the most. Even the thought of this and going for another. Yeah. This is the negative. It's the pull you down part, whereas the other 4 parts can really bring you back up.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. So next week we're going to talk about support and a lot of ways that the people around you can support you through this initial stuff, and that's hugely important too. I hope that there is a support system, but it doesn't have to be big, and sometimes you'd be surprised what one person can do for you. So we'll talk about that then.
And we will be having a download available to people in the near future. I don't have the date in front of me, but it will cover from diagnosis to treatment. To treatment.
That's how it feels like, actually.
Right. And it'll cover what we've talked about with the mental, the physical, the nutrition, the medical, and the support. It'll cover all of that in written form. So for those of you who don't want to go back and re-listen to podcasts, it will summarize to some extent, and it will also have some additional information in it about what we've talked about in the diagnosis treatment. There will be 3 different downloads with the diagnosis treatment, during treatment, and post-treatment that will be available
as we go throughout the series. Yeah. Yep. So, yeah. All right. Well,
cool.
Yeah. Definitely scary. It's hard to talk about this without just remembering how scary all of that is. But
next week we can hopefully make it a little less scary with that support team and supporting you.
Yeah, sounds good.
Cool. Until next time. Peace.
Bye.